What's up, guys? Anarchy Smash FSP here. Um, this is going to be a new thing for me. I intend to start doing videos on My Hero Academia, chapter reviews, character discussions. I intend to do one on Tomura Shigaraki down the line. However, I'm waiting until the end of this arc so that we can have enough material to make sure I can get a really good, proper analysis on where he's going and who he is. I expect there to be more development. Cody Kushi knows how to grow his characters well, and I'm expecting to see some interesting results by the end of this arc. So I don't want to jump the gun and give you an analysis just to have to redact half of that, 2 months from now, if after we get about 12 chapters into this arc. If it's going to be an even longer one, that's definitely not going to be enough data. So it might be pushed back 4 months for all I know, depending on if this is going to be, like an Endeavor arc where it's only like 8 to 12 chapters, or it's going to be more in line with the Overhaul arc or the most recent joint training exercise, which was about 25 or so. That being said, though, there's actually a decent bit of things to unpack within Chapter 224 in of itself, both about the League of Villains and within the context of what's going on with the Meta Liberation Army. So, that underway, here's My Hero Academia Chapter 224 review. We start off with the first page. Everybody's freaking out about the fact they just got called out, tracked down. They know that the enemies know where they are. They've been given a very small time frame to get to where they are, or they will be having the top five of the top six pro heroes coming after them. Technically, the active top five. These starting five are apparently on call, ready to go for the Liberation Army to take out the League of Villains potentially. Now, one of the things that I found fascinating, though, is that the president of Feel Good Inc., which I thought was going to be more of a musical company or an entertainment, seeing as he is a Gorillaz reference, actually has his own satellite, which is the one that is being used to track the League of Villains, meaning he's most likely moreover involved in tech firms. And so that's just like a little extra bit of world building that people have been asking for. So we now understand that they have somebody who is doing satellite imaging and that kind of possibly telecommunications specialist, so they have access to the communicative ways of the society itself. Then you have the Shueisha woman, who's obviously printing literatures to help expand their vision and expand their numbers and go ahead and recruit people through literature and other propaganda pieces. You have the Detonaret CEO, who is obviously somebody who's been close to people's lives through his clothing line and various means of that way. And now he's diving into hero tech as a way to try to gain the trust of the people even further. And then you've got a political leader. So you've got four major facets of society: industrial tech, or weapons management tech now. You have actual politicians, you have publication through literature distribution, and telecommunications being monitored, and the ability to access things through satellite imaging, which is very dangerous. It's further cementing that this is not just some ragtag team of misfits, and that 100,000 is probably not an exaggeration. That being said, another thing, as we transitioned over into the reaction that the league has to one being satellite monitored, you understand that Twice himself is instantly like, hey, boom, let's go. I am the shonen protagonist of this series. I will do anything for my friends. And he even establishes further, I'm a stray. I understand the value of my friends. However, while Toga calling him out was up in the air on like her character, if you think about it, she's only particularly crazy about staying in things that she seems to love. When Shoji approaches her back at the training camp arc, you notice she got kind of more serious, and this plays into that a bit more, where it's only when there's particularly something she's interested in does her mania really manifest properly. Um, and even then, if you look back at the provisional license, she managed to fool Izuku a little bit and was using her stealth techniques properly. So she's not incompetent crazy. Which actually is why she's the dangerous kind of crazy, because she can think these things through, she can execute on them, and she goes, eh. At the end of the day, they just told us that that's what they've got. The only person who seems genuinely crazy is Twice, because as much as Compress is a showmanship, is into showmanship and likes to show off, he immediately hits the pragmatic note and goes, hey, you kind of always get like this and want to go in guns blazing anytime someone like with your friends are involved. And those are kind of important details to have within, because while yes, Compress does love to be flashy, he does love to put on the show, at heart he still understands, yo, we're in this to win. and have a successful business. That being said, the fact that they're literally being watched, Tomura was like, nah, we know they can get us. So then you transition into what he says his plan is, and as he's talking to the doctor, he reveals he never had any intention of getting high ends anyway, which I thought was fascinating because it means he understood I still have not gotten the full backing of the doctor, but he did say he would offer some support, and he's playing into that. The doctor kind of has to teleport them and do these things because he already agreed to help them in some ways, as we saw in the last chapter, where he had already given them meager compensation in the form of money. That understood and under wraps, we get Tomura Shigaraki's plan. His plan is to go into the city and eventually have Gigantomachia transported to them once he awakens. The thing that I find fascinating about this is that he's fully playing into the fact that he believes that the League of Villains can survive against 100,000 people for basically an hour and a half. And I think that's a ballsy approach to take. Like, he's very much gambling like everyone's lives, but at the same time, he's not. They are in a lose-lose scenario, and he is looking for the one way out, which is to flip the game board on its head while still playing it. There is no reason to assume that the Liberation Army actually knows about Gigantomachia. In fact, it's heavily implied that during the phone call, they used that particular satellite signal to track them down. This would mean that they only saw the League as five standing there, but they already know Dabi is a member of the League, which is part of why he gets pulled into this, even though he didn't want to be. The reality is that if they don't pull Dabi, all they do is lose a good fighter, and he still gets eventually tracked down and killed by the Liberation Army, which is something that Dabi himself didn't seem to think through. Um, However, the thing that I find fascinating about this, and that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about yet, is that Tomura Shigaraki says, after fighting him for a while, I realized that he's not invincible. The issue is that he has too much HP. So his goal is to go into the city, survive 90 minutes, and have Gigantomachia dropped on them like a Call of Duty killstreak reward, except that's still not an accurate comparison to what he's going to do, as much of a fun joke as that can be. What he's actually doing is essentially recreating the UA entrance exams. You see, during the UA entrance exams, a bunch of students get tossed into a city, structured, not too big, not too small, kind of like a suburb. Oh. And they fight until the zero pointer shows up. Gigantomachia is their zero pointer. The reality is that he is not their ally right now. That means that him showing up is not going to add to their forces directly. Furthermore, if they were to stop in the middle of their journey to the tower to fight Gigantomachia, they don't get any closer to achieving the points necessary to win. In the same way, if the Liberation Army takes time to fight Gigantomachia, they gain nothing towards taking down the League of Villains. First of all, they're probably not going to succeed. The guy seems to be at least on the level of All Might, and the reality is that that does not stop them or from getting to the League of Villains, or stopping them from getting to Giron, who's in an L-shaped tower, because they can't help but post L's everywhere, from chopping up fingers to their own brands. And I think this is a good take, because the first chapter that we really transitioned into discussing Shigaraki and the League was entitled My Villain Academia. And from there, you immediately get the start of the training arc of power. The power that All Might was going to give Izuku led to him taking a 10-month training arc, essentially, that we off-paneled. In the same way, the power shows up, and Shigaraki has to earn that power. We're essentially reliving the Welcome to the UA saga, as I like to call the first 20 chapters, but from the villain's perspective and from an angle of them maintaining power and growing. So what you're going to have is they're going to be there for 90 minutes, and Gigantomachia is going to show up. And from there, it's going to become a wild goose chase of a fight, because he's going to be hunting down Shigaraki as Shigaraki is moving towards the tower. Anybody who goes to flank Shigaraki is going to have to deal with the fact that Gigantomachia is chasing him down, so they have to not get in his way, but they will automatically assume that because he's running in the direction of the tower, that he is an ally of the League of Villains, meaning that they will get to eradicate many of their enemies just through misunderstanding, which is imperative and very nice touch, because it means that Shigaraki, like Deku, is going to be a villain that uses his brain more. In the same way that Deku clearly cannot use All Might's quirk the same way he could, and that his body cannot take it, and he has to think of multiple ways to do it between the Delaware Smash Air Force guns with the gloves to maintaining shoot style, practicing full cowling. The way to manage the power is more around how he thinks of the applications than just necessarily using it. And in this case, we have Shigaraki, who is not necessarily tamed to the power he has. In fact, the power does try to break his body in the same way One for All tried to break Deku's body and succeeded many times. He's using the power in a way, the way that he can right now, which is in of itself one of the themes of early My Hero Academia for Deku, doing the best of your ability with what you can at the moment. He's maximizing every tool that he has available the best way he can, even though he doesn't have full control over the circumstances. And so you get all these people that immediately just kind of come out the cut uh, as they get led to the city by Slide and Go, which, if you didn't think that Slide and Go was going to be important or possibly a villain, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The very chapter in which he was introduced was named after him, and all he did was show up and go, "Oh, you guys are great. Let's go." But if you would have paid attention, it was only once he showed up that the villain's devices broke that he got from Detonarat. So, for those of you who are surprised by that, I think you gotta, just look a little bit more at the devil in the details, and go from there. Slide and Go seemed to like disappear as soon as all the random citizens started coming out, but whatever. I'm sure he's gonna get his because let's be real, I kind of hope he dies. I don't like the guy. He's not that great of a superhero. Quirk isn't impressive. Goofy design, and all around just I find him to be kind of expendable. And the other thing that we got for sure, like further confirmation of, though, by him being there and the guy standing on the rooftop, is that there are multiple heroes within the Liberation Army. Do I believe every hero tied to the Liberation Army was there? No, I do not. And that is in of itself a great thing, because it means that even if everything goes according to Shigaraki's plan and Giganto Makia shows up and they just wipe out this whole city and they get Giron back, there will still be people out there that are against them, that are in the works, that are in the Pro Hero Network, that can take them down or help the Liberation top execs escape. But another thing that I think is beneficial is the fact that these are people in so many different positions of power. If they do not kill the members of the Liberation Army, but instead, for example, take them hostage, have Toga take their blood, and run these companies, or step in as the representative of the heart and mind body party, then you have a way for them to slowly increase their political reach and manipulate further members of the Liberation Forces to serving under the League of Villains, which is where I think this arc is going. Because you have all these things set up in motion where every time Deku grows, Shigaraki grows. And so Deku picks up 6 quirks in the last arc, and we just kind of need to look at what is Shigaraki going to gain out of this arc to see where these combat matchups and all these other things are headed. So, for example, we have Shigaraki, who's already been acquiring physical power training by having to go against Giganto. He's getting fiscal resources from the Doctor eventually. He's going to be gaining access to the high ends, assuming he tames Gigantomachia. He was directly told he would be getting power from the Doctor, who'd been working on research for him. The sheer gathering of political power is also important, and then being able to control information. Assuming that the Feel Good Inc. satellite and the publishing companies can be influenced by the League, Shigaraki has acquired 6 important powers necessary to being a villain, yet albeit a different one than All for One, his predecessor. And that in of itself is where this arc seems to be going, and that is something that I'm very much looking forward to. Next chapter, I'm expecting us to get a bit of Toga's backstory, seeing as, she's getting into a 1v1 with the president of Shueisha, which is a nice touch of Horikoshi to just bring in, his own boss, bring in his own, our more real world drops into the My Hero Academia verse that I think many people who understand the reference would be able to appreciate. Let me know what you guys think, if you want more content like this, if there's anything that you would have liked me to talk about more, anything that you feel like I left out that was really important and I should have discussed or delved into more. But overall, I think we understood. We're getting the matchup between Toga and the publisher. whose quirk seems to have something to do with explosions. We're getting, just more characterization for the league overall. Spinner's there. He's still showed up. Dobby hasn't left the league yet. I don't know if anybody will actually be leaving the league. I personally am not in the camp that thinks there will be anybody leaving the league. Maybe somebody will die. We did have Magna die, but every time Shigaraki takes on these villains, he takes away not only a powerful lesson, but some kind of, way to advance further and grow the league. So when they say the league is being destroyed, I'm personally in the camp that the league will be moreover reborn, and the league as we know it will fade away. But the league itself, its members will grow and become something different, something more powerful that will become a legitimate threat. Because the reality is that the league taking on an entire city's worth of people is an excellent way to get them on the map. So I'm Aniki Smash FSP. You can find me on Twitter under the same name. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, things that you would like me to discuss more in the future, as I said already, just let me know down below. Like and subscribe if you like what you're hearing, or if you just want to be able to reliably come here and tell me I suck at this. Either way it goes, you have a wonderful day. Aniki out.